Hello, everyone. Welcome to our nonsensical webinar. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes as people start to join. We had quite a good, well, hopefully we have a good turnout, but we had quite a good registration volume this time around. So thank you so much for joining. We're really excited for this. Um, I'll do a bit of housekeeping first while we wait for people to join. But basically, we do webinars every single month at Nonsensical. So make sure that you are keeping an eye out for your emails. You'll be getting a recording of this video tomorrow. So if you have to hop off halfway through, don't worry about it. You'll be getting that recording by tomorrow. If you want to share it with anyone, please do. And basically today we're going to be talking about TikTok SEO. But while we wait for people to join, I think we always do a little bit of an icebreaker. And I also want to test out the chat and make sure that everyone can message each other. Can everybody please put in the chat what talk you're sitting in? Sam, what talk are you sitting in right now?
Oh, I'm singing Dachshund Talk because I have a Dachshund and I'm constantly interacting with other random Dachshund content. So I'm just filled with many, many Dachshunds. That's mine. What about you, Melina?
Love it. I am currently in air dry clay talk. I've been really loving my cozy hobbies right now, and even though I don't do it all the time, it's flooding my feeds and I'm saving them all for inspiration. So, really excited. I see some really fun ones. Somebody's in Lisbon talk. I want to go there as well. Ben Stewart said that he's in Ben talk. I'm assuming this means you're in your own world, and I absolutely love that. Book talk, franchising talk, some really good ones here. Um, Amazing. Oh, horse hoof toff. Hey, Ollie. I should have known that was you.
I really
Anyway,
enjoyed the Gary Barlow wine talk. Whoever said that one, I'm in there as well. That's my other one.
I
Remember the
love it.
lovely old time.
I definitely think that what talk you're sitting in is a really good indicator of like who you might be as a person. So, anyways, thank you everyone for joining. Keep sending in your talks. If you run out of talks to think of, also let us know where you're joining from. That would be really great to see who we're talking to today. Um, I think we've given it a bit of time. We have quite a few people who have joined. So for anyone who missed the beginning, I just want to say hello. If this is your first time joining one of our webinars, my name is Melina. I am the head of partnerships at Nonsensical. And at Nonsensical, we focus completely on TikTok. So we help clients get impact on the platform, whether that's through organic, which we're going to be talking about today, or paid, or influencer, or TikTok shop itself. So any questions you have about TikTok in general, feel free to follow up with an email directly to myself, which will be sent over in the chat in a little bit. But today we are focusing on TikTok SEO specifically. And we are joined by one of our co-founders, Sam, who is our Chief Content Officer. Before I give Sam the time to introduce himself for any of you who haven't met him yet, I also just wanted to note that Christina is one of our team members, and she's going to be monitoring the chat and potentially sending in some links to our LinkedIn and things like that throughout. So if there's anything coming across from her, just know that that is from our team. All right, Sam, who are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Sam, as Melina said, one of the co-founders here. My role as Chief Content Officer, I basically make sure the strategies that we do with brands get some of the right impact. So I look very much at what we do on TikTok with brands to just make sure is it going to work for them? Is it going to be on brand? Is it going to actually drive them sales or downloads or make them grow organically on the platform? My background's all in performance marketing and social. Many years ago, I used to work in financial services as a head of digital, selling very, very boring products. And now I get to work on TikTok, doing much more interesting things, working with really weird brands and doing very nonsensical things. And that's super fun. I also live in Berlin, if that's of interest at all. Used to live in the UK. I've got a German wife, so I moved out here a few years ago. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got a tiny, tiny Dachshund, who's called Gustav. He's not in here, but he may make an appearance later.
Love it. I also have two dogs, so if you see a little head popping up, it might be one of them. Hopefully it's one of them because there's nobody else in this flat. Also, I see a couple of people not calling in, but joining from Cape Town, Nigeria. That is absolutely wild. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. For those that didn't join at the beginning, this webinar will be recorded. So if you have to hop off halfway through, no worries. I'll be sending an email tomorrow with a link to the recording and a bit of a recap as well. We do these webinars every single month, but today we are going to talk about TikTok SEO. So the structure of today is going to be a little bit different than the last one that we did, which was more conversational. Not saying it's not going to be conversational, but we're going to start off with a bit of slides just to kind of set the scene on what TikTok SEO is, how you can optimize it. And we just ask that you start to ask questions throughout, but we will address them after the slides. It's not going to take the whole time. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty of times for your questions, but I think it just kind of helps to get everybody up to speed on what it is and how you can use it to help your content cut through. So I will let Sam share his screen and we'll walk through that now. Please use the Q&A function as well to ask your questions. It just kind of helps us sort it a bit better. Yep, Anne-Marie, you're reading my mind here. So please do use the Q&A function. That would be amazing. And then, as I mentioned before, Christina will be monitoring it. So if there's anything really pressing, maybe send it in twice, just so we make sure that we get to it. So, all right, Sam, over to you.
Thank you very much, Melina. Thank you very much. Apologies if this comes across as a lecture. It's not a lecture, but we need some visual aids to be able to talk about what's happening on TikTok with SEO, because it can get a little bit confusing, if you ask me. And if you ever worked in SEO as well, there's lots of similar things within there. And I think it's better to visualize it to just show. So I'm going to go through some slides. It's not a lecture, even if it seems that way. And Melina will just come in with some questions as we go on potentially. And yeah, look forward to hearing all the questions. But let's get started, because what is TikTok SEO? This might feel like a really basic question, but let's set the scene. It is when you are on TikTok and you search for something, it is basically the videos that appear on those particular searches. So as marketers on TikTok, how are we optimizing our content to appear on TikTok search? Make sense? You can see this little GIF just rolling through here, showing some of the search terms. More on that a little bit. If you've ever worked in SEO before, it is very, very similar on TikTok. Maybe a little less black hat. Shout out to all the SEOs out there if there are someone here. But why is it important? Well, above all, it's about visibility, being found on TikTok. 49% of millennials use TikTok for search. I'm in that party. I am a millennial. And yeah, Melina raising that hand as well. I'm a millennial. I use TikTok for search. If I'm going on holiday, I am checking TikTok. I am not checking Google. I am not going down the rabbit hole of TripAdvisor. I'm just going to check things to do in Athens. I'm going there in a few weeks and I'm checking it out, trying to figure out what's going on. It is massive in the millennial game, but not as big as for Gen Zs. 74% of Gen Zs use TikTok for search. There's a source for this. You can find it after. There's lots of interesting stats like this. 74% of Gen Zs using TikTok for search. It is massive, massive for young people. And because of that, increased views. So if you are not trying to optimize your videos to appear in search, you are going to be missing out on all of the people who are searching potentially for something in your industry. So it's important because you can get increased views. And if you get increased views, that means you potentially can get some increased traffic. If you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to build something, that could mean extra sales down the line as well. And one of the biggest things, if you haven't already seen this, particularly in the UK, what TikTok are doing at the moment, they are running advertising all the time about searching it with TikTok. They're promoting this on TV, they're promoting this on radio, they're doing their massive campaigns all about, well, you need to go and search this on TikTok. They are promoting TikTok as a search engine, and that will continue to happen continuously. So you've already got 49% of millennials using TikTok for search. You've already got 74% of Gen Zs. That's without giant campaigns. This is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. My mum the other day, who is, I'm not sure where you put the boomer bracket, but she's up and that side. And she was saying what she was searching for on TikTok. If my mum's doing it, that for me is always very worrying. Everybody's doing it. And the other thing is Google itself. ranking on TikTok is one thing, but your videos can actually now appear in Google search as well. You can see an example from here for curly hair routine. So the more you can start ranking on TikTok, the better chance you have for ranking on Google as well, which is amazing if you do SEO. What does that look like in practice? We've got a great example here for curly hair routine. Now, where's all my curly hair people here in this webinar? Thank you. There you go. These are screenshots from Google. Basically, there's 1,300 searches a month in the UK for curly hair routine. That's going up all the time. Actually, 23%. Can you believe it? So if you look at that on TikTok today, if you search curly hair care routine, what you will see is the auto fill comes up on TikTok with the current most popular terms that sit alongside that. So curly hair care routine is already quite a long tail term, but then you've got curly hair care routine for beginners. TikTok says that is one of the most popular terms. Products UK in order overnight for growth for damaged hair definition. So you've got all of these different terms on TikTok that you could be looking at, but we're going to look very specifically at curly hair care routine. Now, this is just an example of what that looks like on TikTok searches itself. And I'm just going to show you, I think this is position 2 currently. And you can just see here what's ranking for curly hair routine on there today. TikTok at the top right there, you can see the little search bar which says curly hair routine. That is what TikTok thinks this video is about. You can see the video itself. It's got the words trying a curly hair routine in it as well. So this is a very good optimized video, but you can basically see the funnel here of somebody searching for curly hair care routine, all the other videos that appear, and then one of the top ones here that has millions of views because it is very highly optimized for TikTok SEO. So that leads me very nicely onto how the hell the algorithm works for TikTok. You may have seen this before, you may know it, you may not, but we talk about this in a lot of webinars and how we speak to companies. But the way the algorithm works, on the right-hand side, you will see this thing here. If you've ever done a post on TikTok and you've ended up with 200, 300, 400 views, you will know that you are stuck in this small audience and you're probably in TikTok jail if that is a consistent thing that's happening. But when you post on TikTok, you go out to a test pool of people that TikTok thinks is going to be interacting with the video. That is based on who follows you, what's in the video itself, what you're saying about the video. So when we're doing stuff on TikTok, we need to make sure that we are hitting the right audience. Because if we're hitting the wrong audience, we're a bit fucked. Because why something grows big on TikTok is these evaluation factors on the left-hand side. That is your watch time, how much people have rewatched it, the engagement, so shares, comments, saves, and likes. So before we do anything on TikTok, we need to make sure we are speaking to the right audience over here. Because if you are trying to promote a product, a football product, and you're talking about rugby, you're going to be sitting in rugby talk, and you're going to be in the wrong place if you're trying to reach people who are interested in football, if you say with me on this type of stuff. So we need to make sure we're in the right talk. Otherwise, this whole thing is redundant and pointless. Luckily, we did a webinar about this very recently. So you can go back and watch this. We'll be sending the link out if you haven't already seen it. We've done a whole thing on how you find the right talk on TikTok as well. That's where we start before we do anything on the SEO side. The important thing then, how does something actually rank on TikTok? If we've decided what talk we want to sit in, who we're going to go after and everything else like this, it's all down to keywords at the very beginning. We need to be choosing the keywords that are going to be important for us. So if you look on the right-hand side here, this is a good example of a video that's ranking for study tips at the moment. And you can see various study-based keywords have been put into the video itself. So if you're trying to rank for study tips, one of the things you would like to be doing is making sure that in the caption, you are using the word study tip. In the hashtags, you would be using study tips. Potentially you are tagging other accounts or locations that fit what you're going after. So if you're targeting something in Norwich, you would tag Norwich, for example, if you're trying to rank for Norwich-based terms. Your labels that you're using, so your titles and labels, you might want to be saying study tips throughout, the big titles that you're using, and maybe there's an audio that could say the word study tips. probably isn't one, but it could be. It could be what you're talking about with a narration, a voiceover, that type of stuff. So the reason something ranks at the very outset is all to do with how TikTok then assesses all of this and goes, this video seems to be about study tips. So now when somebody searches study tips, I will put it in the mix for study tips. Make sense so far? So if we know the keywords we want to go after, more on that in a minute, if we know the keywords we're going to go after, we just need to make sure that the video reflects that with captions, labels, titles, and all of that. So that's great. If you're doing all that, that's awesome. But it's all redundant and pointless if your video is shit. That is the major thing with this, because you can optimize your TikTok until the cows come home to the SEO world. But if the video is rubbish, it is never ever going to rank because of the algorithm. Showed this slide earlier. If you are not getting something to actually have good watch time or good engagement, it will not go beyond phase one. It will get stuck in TikTok jail. If you want to break out of TikTok jail, you need to make sure that your video is engaging, has good watch time, means that you actually have something that people want to watch. So you then go into phase two, then you go into phase three, then you go into phase four. So it's great if you're optimizing, but you also need to do great content. How do you do great content? Well, you're going to have to come join us again for our next webinar. Great segue. On the 2nd of May, how to create organic TikTok content that gets cut through, because we could talk about that for bloody days. But small snapshot, being authentic, relatable, emotional response, hooks, usefulness, controversy, all that type of stuff. That is coming soon, Melina. Can't wait. It's coming up. Back to SEO though. I talked about keywords earlier and making sure that you've got the right ones, but what the hell keywords should you be using for, right? You could go after almost anything. If you know your audience, this might seem really obvious, but if you know your audience, that is a great start to be able to understand what they're currently looking for on TikTok and what they're searching. But then finding out what your talk is that your audience are sitting in. That does not mean that it's as simple as right, I sell this stuff, so I must be sitting in this talk. An example, we run an account called Urban Tandoor. They are an Indian restaurant. And if you don't already follow them on TikTok, I suggest you do. They're absolutely amazing. Pat ourselves on back on this one, but they do parody songs all about curry and various different things. You would think naturally they're to be sitting in like food talk or Bristol talk or restaurant talk. They ain't anywhere near that. They are in this entertaining parody space. So they do not go into the talk you naturally think it might be. So picking your talk is majorly important, because if you pick the wrong talk, your keywords won't make any sense. And if you're speaking about completely different random keywords to what your talk's in, you won't be going after the right talk at all. So get the right talk and then try and find out what keywords you should be using on TikTok that's going to be relevant to your niche. So you can do that if you've never used Google Keyword Planner. That's a great place to start. Basically, try and use more long tail keywords. What I showed earlier with curly hair care routine is much better than just going after curly hair or curly hair care routine in the UK or curly hair care routine for ginger hair or something like that, like something that is really, really specific and long tail. You can also use other tools like SEMrush, which is another great one. And you can look at what's currently happening on TikTok search as well. We like to, when we do stuff, if we've got a talk that we've already got, if we've got Google keywords that we've outlined actually are popular, is then just type these into Google and see the related keywords that Google gives as well. So put things like how-tos or questions over the top of it. You can put like how can I curly hair, and it will just auto-populate. So once you start doing that stuff, start basically putting out a list of target keywords that you want to go after. You can't target everything. So you want to pick the bangers. You want to pick the ones that have got the most potential on there as well. And then how do you know if it's actually working? Well, the first thing we always look at is this little search bar on the right-hand side. So you can see this just popping up on one of our nonsensical TikToks. But when you have a TikTok, it has a search bar at the very top that basically shows what TikTok thinks this video is about. That's a good indication. You can look on the TikTok search results itself, check the TikTok search results, but you can now look at your traffic sources on your TikTok analytics. And this tool's amazing. If you've not done anything with it, I would suggest you do. So this is an example. We did this video over, I think, nearly 2 years ago for Birmingham Council. And this is just for Birmingham accents. So if you search Birmingham accents now, I think, well, certainly if you're in the UK, you'll see this one here. It's the 5th result. It's quite an old video now, so it's started to slowly drop down the rankings. But you can see Birmingham accents. This is the video here. And I'll just show you the journey. So you've got there, number 5 result on here. If we go onto the video itself, this is the video here, you can see that this is the keyword that we have here, Birmingham accent. We've got over here, we've got this in a hashtag as well. This is what TikTok thinks the video is about, Birmingham accents. So it's appearing now for Birmingham accents. It's now got 3.1 million views. In the first 2 weeks, I think this video had something like 2,000 views. We didn't really think it had done very well. We were just sitting there waiting, and then it appeared at the top of search, and it's just consistently been getting views every single month. So it's nearly 2 years old, and it's consistently gaining views, even if it's in position 5. And now what you can see, if you go onto the video analysis on TikTok, you've got traffic sources. You need to make sure your app's up to date on this. But you can see here that the top traffic source in the last 60 days is search. 67% of the videos have come from search, and that's come from 4,548 impressions. Bear in mind, 2 years old, this video. Then you can basically see your search insights for the video itself. So 4.7 thousand impressions. Off the back of that, 3,443 clicks. So a really, really high click-through rate. And you can see the average position there, position 5. And you can just see your daily impressions that you're getting as well. So what you can do if you're running an account today is just go into your TikTok analytics and just start having a look at your top performing videos in the last 30 days. And you should see the videos that have been picking up steam recently. And you can start seeing what they're appearing for and how they're doing it, basically. So that's how to know if you're winning on this space as well. But it does take time. You shouldn't really be seeing stuff appear straight away for a big popular keyword. You do need to get it working first. This is another example from our Nonsensical account. It's another one that's ranking. 99% of the views we're getting on there at the moment are coming from search itself. And we've got loads of different examples here. The click-through rate just from appearing in position 4 to 5 is between 60 to 70%, which is absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. So that's mostly it. Finally, there's a bonus tip as well. If you run a blog, stick a TikTok in there as well that you want to rank. If you have a thing that you're trying to rank for on Google and you've done a video about that thing, combine the two, put that video in the blog so it appears in Google. And there are these links that are being built, kind of old school SEO stuff here, but it works for driving added engagement. Anybody that's viewing it off platform will come onto the video. We are testing this at the moment on a few different TikToks, and we think this could be something that gives it the extra boost that's on the platform. But just remember, if the video is shit, it's never going to rank. So you need to make sure that the video is good. And that's the end of the not lecture. Any questions?
Love it. Thank you so much, Sam. I really like the emphasis on this being kind of a long-term play. The fact that that one video was 2 years old and still getting impressions and video views from search. I mean, if the SEO wasn't optimized, we would have a dead video at the moment. So love that. We have a couple of questions, but I'm just going to kick off the question round because we are now into the question part with one question, and then we'll start to dive into any questions from the people who have joined us today. Again, please pop your stuff in the Q&A. I saw some of them coming through in the chat, so please pop them over into the Q&A so that way we can monitor what's been answered and it doesn't get pushed up. But my question for you, Sam, based on all of that, it sounds really important. Obviously, we know and we're seeing the results from what we've done for some of our client accounts and our accounts as well. But how important is this? Should you be thinking about this in every single video that you post?
Oh, very good question. I would say, well, it's super important. It's something you need to be focusing on, but you don't want this to be every single post that you're doing. You should be picking out some target keywords that are really important to your business and taking a proportion of what you're doing on TikTok to optimize for that one. If you try and rank for everything, you'll probably rank for nothing. be a bit strategic with what you're focusing on and let your other content maybe do some of the heavy lifting on this one. You're not going to rank for everything. So don't try and just go full in with 20 videos. Every single one's going to rank for a different keyword term. You've still got to get them working above all beyond that. Like if you can get a video that actually pops off in the For You page, that is going to be amazing. So make sure that you are focusing first and foremost on doing good content.
Makes sense. Like you said, if it's shit, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Um, Amazing. So, couple of questions from everybody who have joined us. So, how long before you'd expect to be ranking for keywords?
It does depend on how long this keyword's been sitting out there. Like if you search Gary Barlow wines right now, like there's going to be, I haven't actually done that search, but you've been in the top, someone mentioned this earlier about being in the top, but like that's a brand new thing that's really popping off at the moment. So that's probably a good indication of how long something can get there and how quickly it can get there. But it can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to a month. It could happen in a few days. There's no real major answer with it. One of those big factors for TikTok for why they rank something is based on performance, is how many engagements it's got, how many video views it's got. And we see such a long tail now with how long things take to get going. Like you can post something and it's barely got any views, and then a week later it's suddenly taken off in the algorithm. So there's no right or wrong answer for it.
Okay, well, adding on that, when would you feel concerned? Like maybe it takes a while for it to kick in, but at what point do you just say this SEO strategy isn't working and you need a bit of a pivot?
I would probably I would probably make sure that whatever you're doing, you're giving 6 months at least with anything you're looking at on TikTok to just like it's very similar with SEO. It is a long game. You can't expect to suddenly rank for all the terms that you want within the first month, even the first few months. Like 6 months of activity, you should be seeing some results from what you're doing. Ideally, it just depends how ambitious you're being. If you're trying to become the number one person for house building in the UK, that's great, but that's probably going to be really hard. So, are you going after keywords that maybe have not as much competition on as others? So, I think just be realistic with what you're doing.
Fair enough. I think that's really, really good. But I guess there's a question about sorry, I'm gonna cough 1 second. Excuse me. I tried to fight it. There's a question about organic, and so we know that organic is a long-term play. We're also understanding the fact that SEO is also a long-term play. So one thing that we always tell our clients when we're bringing them on board is that yes, some people get lucky. TikTok is still a discovery platform. There is still that element of you can go viral, but the reality has very much shifted from going viral every single time. And just like with SEO, it's shifting from ranking first right away. So this is a long-term play. And if you're going to go into an organic first strategy, you have to be resilient because there's a lot of testing and learning. There's a lot of testing and learning when it comes to the keywords that you're choosing on this, what's actually going to resonate with your audience. So just keep that in mind. It helps, but it's not a surefire way to start to see results tomorrow. Everything that you do on TikTok these days, aside from paid, which will lead me into my next question, is going to be a bit of a slog, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
So how does anything you would add to that, Sam, before I go on to the next one?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what journey you're on. So many brands we work with have either like they're coming fresh onto the platform and they might be like, let's get big tomorrow. And we're like, no, it's going to take a little bit of time. Or you may have been doing this for years and you've never got anything working yet. But look at some of the best brands on the platform and where they started. Like take your Duolingos, your Ryanair, go back to the very beginning of what they were originally doing is generally going to be completely different to what they're doing today until they found their thing on TikTok and found their talk and their style and all of that type of stuff. Like you need to start there. Like if you've got good content that works, that's way more important than trying to go for every single keyword initially. Because when you first start out on this platform, quite often what you do is probably going to be wrong. You're probably going to be testing. You're probably going to be finding your feet. When we did Urban Tandoor, did we think we were going to be doing parody songs about curry and that type of stuff? No, we thought actually probably what the best way to do this would be to film the brilliant food that they have. Shout out, go to there if you're ever in Bristol. But we thought it would be about food. It wasn't. So just give yourself the time on the platform to properly invest and be resilient, like Melina says. I think that's massive.
Definitely. So if you're not taking an organic approach, how does SEO apply to a paid strategy on TikTok?
Um, well, paid now on TikTok is getting really interesting. Number one, you've got search ads that's sitting in there. I think if you do one of the examples in the deck, you can see basically when you search for something at the moment, you will quite often see a sponsored post within there as well. That is coming from a search ad placement. So when you are designing content for your ads, you need to be thinking about how does it look in search. It kind of goes with organic as well. If you want to drive good click through on a search platform like this, what does that video look like to somebody scrolling by? Does it have the keywords written up close up there? So it's kind of like a little bit of a snapshot, just like a direct response ad where you're going, is this going to draw me to actually press the button to do that? So from a search ad perspective, like from an ad perspective, you need to be thinking about this either way because your ads likely will be appearing in search as well. A good thing to just look at when you're doing search ads is that you get the data back from TikTok about where your ads are being placed. The annoying thing is that you can't currently target keywords on TikTok via search ads, but that will no doubt be coming. That will definitely be coming. But at the moment, it appears based on what TikTok knows about the video. So if you can start looking at things like your negative keywords you can add, and just seeing potentially how you can integrate some of the paid ones into your organic as well, because you will see the things it's basically be appearing for too. Oh, Melina, you're on mute.
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. We have some more questions about slightly more tactical things. So the use of hashtags. When you're using hashtags for SEO, do you need to think about the size of the hashtag at all?
Yes, you do. I probably get more broadly in hashtags and like captions. You've got 500 character limit now, I think, on TikTok to basically design a caption that ranks for SEO. What you don't want to do is keyword stuff like you would in the old days on SEO. Just try and write the word curly hair routine 1,000 times. That's not going to work. You need to basically you need to make sure that the content is good, the caption makes sense, it's engaging, it does all the things that makes people want to click down into there. The hashtags you choose should probably be if you look at that Birmingham accent one, I think there was a few different ones around the Birmingham space. You've got to think if you've got a main one that matches to the keyword term, so Birmingham accent and the hashtag Birmingham accent, that's a good one to make sure that you've got in so that one of your keywords is replicated as a hashtag. You should be looking at that anyway to go, does this exist? Is this a space on TikTok that is on there today? So like if you take various talks, like digital marketing as an example, if you do hashtag digital marketing, is that a thing? Can you rank in that space itself? Then you've got to think of your sub hashtags that kind of fit around there. So things like digital marketing tips or digital marketing managers, all of those type of things that kind of sit around the digital marketing hashtag, because your content will appear, yes, in the digital marketing space in that hashtag, but it could also appear in other hashtags that are similar to that. And if you start getting more views on your content, then you will get better ranking on the main hashtag you're going after. So to go back to your point about the actual hashtags you're going after, definitely start from a position of, does it exist? Like, is this a thing? Is there just one post on there? Well, if there is, it's probably not really worth going after. If it's got 5 billion posts on there, that's probably one of those hashtags and keywords that's very, very hard to go after. Is there something that's a little bit more long tail? So I guess try and pick ones that have a lot of stuff on there, but they're not like the broadest in the world where you've got billions and billions of posts and they're not so niche that no one's ever used them ever.
Yeah, totally fair. So we also say it's video specific as well. So the more like, yes, there are going to be some that are broader, but you also want to help you continuously kind of train the algorithm that this is the space that you want to be sitting in for all of your videos. There might be a couple that you have on each video, but then the video specific hashtags will be down to the topic that you're speaking about in each one. So if it's like the example, if digital marketing is the talk, you can be you could have a sketch that's just entertainment focused and you use hashtag digital marketing. And then the next video you do is a little bit more educational. That one could be digital marketing and hashtag digital marketing tips. So that's kind of how you start to merge them together, but it does take a lot of research and a lot of testing and learning to see what's out there, what's worth it, what is the right size, because sometimes too big is genuinely too big. So, but absolutely hashtags are big when it comes to SEO, and it's a big part of our strategy when we build those out. Okay. A couple of questions about the analytics that TikTok currently has. So can you just confirm whether or not TikTok actually has internal keyword analytics?
Internal keyword analytics.
Yeah, like on TikTok platform, is there keyword analytics?
It's some people are seeing it at the moment, but it's not fully released out to the rest of the public, where you can actually see what you're appearing for and everything on there. Some accounts have got them. They're testing them that I can see in certain countries and places, but they haven't released public data yet about how many people are searching for X, Y, and Z. Now, that could be coming very, very soon, but they're keeping that one relatively close.
So because of that, because it's not there at the moment, um, how would you recommend tracking your organic performance or organic SEO performance or rank?
An overall level, I guess, for those things. Yeah, it's a bit manual. It's a bit manual at the moment. So you can kind of pick the views of you can pick, like I think I showed before, with like one video, you can just see how that one's ranking against each particular term. But that's really the only way to do it at the moment. Searching on the term and having a look at where you're appearing, if you're appearing at all. But until you start ranking and you're having one video ranking, it's quite hard to even see where you are. So at this point, it's manual, I'll
Yeah,
say. But
unfortunately, but
no doubt
hopefully.
there'll be a tool that shows that soon, or TikTok will release something.
Yeah, I think it's definitely coming, especially with the introduction of search ads. I don't see how they can kind of get away from that. Um,
Yeah.
so hopefully soon.
I'm looking forward to SEMrush releasing something. Come on,
Yeah,
give us a nice tool.
let's do it. And then what do you think the difference is in terms of search behavior on TikTok versus Google?
It's way more long tail. It's way more long tail. And people, like, if you, most of the, if you search on Google, you quite often you can be quite specific in what you're searching for. On TikTok, generally, you can be a bit more like best things to do in Athens in May, in July. It replicates in similar ways, but the TikTok searches are typically long tail when it comes down to it. So you will have that on Google as well, but that's basically what TikTok searches are all about. You wouldn't just search vacuum on TikTok necessarily. You'll search types of vacuums or things I need to vacuums from the 50s. I don't know. I'm thinking of all the long tail ones here, but yeah, it's much more long tail,
Yeah,
which
like
is why
best
if you're
cheap vacuum.
yeah, exactly. Which is
Mhm.
why you need to check your if you're trying to predict what it might be, see what the long tail searches are on Google. If you've got a lot of searches happening for a particular term in the long tail version of it, like how to do X, Y, and Z, it's quite often going to be replicated on TikTok.
Definitely. And I guess just a little bit more on that. Is there proof that Google Keyword Planner search, like data, translates into the popularity of that keyword on TikTok?
I wouldn't say there's hard and fast proof. I would take it more as a bit of a punt and just kind of assuming search behavior is going to be similar to that space as well. What we like to do is take the Google terms and put them directly into TikTok and seeing the number of videos appearing for them, and also those other autofills that TikTok gives as well, because you'll probably see maybe a little bit of variety and change to that and nuance, particularly with more Gen Zs and stuff searching. They might say things a little bit differently, But yeah, there's no hard and fast proof yet until TikTok come back and they give everybody the search analytics, but it feels like it would make sense.
Definitely. Definitely. So we had a question about talks, and kind of how we find them. So do talks get naturally created, or and do you search via the subject talk to find it? Or is it more of a stream of conversation about a topic that then begins to grow?
It's like conversation. How do orcs get created? Are they natural or do they come out of the ground? This is tox. They Tots can develop over time. They can develop over time. You've got your traditional talks, like say, let's go digital marketing talk, very traditional talk. It's been around for a while. But then you'll have talks that kind of spring up out of those talks as well, once something becomes a thing. Whoever said Gary Barlow wine talk is a very good example of a brand new talk that's probably springing out at the moment. Urban Tandoor, one of our clients, now has basically it's kind of its own talk. It's got quite a big hashtag. People get caught in the Urban Tandoor algorithm as well. You can basically create stuff if your brand gets big enough in that space, or if there's a thing that you're trying to make happen as well. So there may be a phrase or a term as well that you use that could become a big talk if this catches on and becomes viral elsewhere. So it kind of just can get built out of nothing. You could make a decision, you could make a strategic decision as a business to go, you know what, we are going to create this area as a talk. It doesn't exist on TikTok, but we're going to put a load of money behind this and we're going to try and build this as like an algorithm that we want people to go into. We're going to get influencers to talk about this. We're just going to kind of create this whole space on TikTok all in this one area. So yeah, it can kind of it can just be there, it already exists, or it can just start growing, or it can come from scratch.
Absolutely. So that kind of leads into another question that we got about paid specifically, because you said put a bunch of money behind it. So is it worth boosting posts to help push out content when trying to hit those search um goals, I guess, like in order to start ranking a video that you spark? Or does it affect the search organically in a negative way?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. I would there's such conflicting views on this, but like we're quite particular with paid and organic. We're quite wary of boosting things when we're trying to do a pure play organic strategy. The more, and TikTok would absolutely say this isn't true, but the more money you put behind organic content, really, the harder it becomes to do organic well, would be my opinion. That's just my opinion on this one here. However, using paid strategically to basically put it in front of the right audience as a long-term play is also something you can do as well. We like to use paid much more for either conversion or hard, fast, like brand metrics for reach campaigns and downloads and things like that. So that might mean doing a spark ad on an organic post just to give it that extra reach. But I wouldn't do it from the position of we might get this video to rank by putting paid behind it first, because likely what if you go back to the ranking factors that I talked about, TikTok will be looking at the engagement that you're getting. It will be looking at the natural views it's getting. You can't just basically pump it out to the very top of it. That's why when you see there's some big brands that put lots of money behind some posts and smart posts, you're not going to be seeing those typically ranking in the top. If you go and search, they're almost certainly all going to be organic generally. So you can use paid, but don't expect it to rank organically because of it, unless it just happens to be the world's most engaging video.
Yes, engagement is key, content is key, and to get them to engage, you have to have shit hot content.
Share hot
Speaking
content.
of, we have quite a few questions about what makes a video shit on TikTok.
Oh God, that's such I could talk for days about that. I could talk for days. Or if it looks too much like it's way professional, like you could have probably the most high production piece of content and you stick it on TikTok, and to me, quite that is very often really shit. Conversely, rather than just doing stuff that is like actually quite shit production, lo-fi is good. Raw, authentic stuff on TikTok works best. You are seeing higher production stuff starting to come onto the platform, But that is generally being quite optimized for TikTok. The amount of brands that come onto TikTok and they shove on their shit meta creative onto TikTok and go, it didn't work. I don't understand why TikTok doesn't work. And we're like, well, obviously you put your crap content on there. That's why it didn't work. Or you put your TV ads on TikTok and you didn't do any optimization for it. That's crap, basically. But I guess I'm probably the other thing. If you've done a piece of content and you've watched that back and you've watched it cold, because people get trapped in this view of like, I spent fucking ages making this piece of content and it's really good and I understand everything about it now and I'm going to post it and why didn't it work? You got to look at something cold and go, did that make me feel anything watching that? If it made you feel nothing, then it's probably not going to work because it won't make people feel anything. It's not going to make people like, it's not going to make people share or save. Did it make people feel something? That something could be, I fucking hate this, but that's great because it's a reaction. It's something. It could be that I hate that person in this video. I hate what they're talking about. It's controversial. It could be that it made me really laugh. It could be that it made me cry or shocked or I had to send it to somebody. What is it making it do more than anything? We'll be talking about that at our next webinar, won't we, Melina?
We definitely will. Yeah, another subtle plug. Also, I will just say as well, Ollie, our other co-founder, did a post recently, shout out Ollie, about why brands should think like creators and not brands on the platform. So another thing from a company or brand perspective that could make your content quite shit is by shoving your product and shoving your brand in front of everybody. Nobody cares. I'm sorry. That's very, very blunt, but you know, we gotta do it sometimes. Nobody cares. You need to connect with their interests, their problems, and then build that community. And later, when you earn the right to speak about your brand, you can speak about your brand. Do not join an organic, do not start an organic content strategy with your brand front and center all the time. Unless you are the biggest brand in the world, Coca-Cola, even then it's probably going to flop, to be completely honest. So,
Yeah.
but like Sam said, we will be talking about that.
Yeah, I would just echo as well. It's like you can talk about your brand in time. You've got to earn the right to bring it in.
Yeah.
You've got to build that trust on the platform and start building virality on the platform. Once you've got that, then integrate your brand. Like at that point, do it. How do you slowly weave it in? But if you start from a position of we've got to go viral and we've got to sell our product, well, you're going to fail. So just yeah, exactly like Melina said. And a big if you check out Primark London, I think it's East London. I think that's their account. They've just did a TikTok yesterday that went viral, and it is one of the funniest. Like if you're thinking about shit content, on the face of it, you might say it is shit, but I think it is absolutely brilliant. It is just two people. Have a watch of it, but it's two people basically doing this really funny, like terrible joke about you just watch it. It's really, really great. But it's a great example of something that is incredibly lo-fi, doesn't take itself too seriously, and actually somehow weaves in the brand without it ever trying to in the first place. It's brilliant. Yeah, the khaki thing. Thank you, whoever did that. Like, I absolutely love that. It was a great example of a piece of content that could look shit, but isn't. It's far from it. It's so simple.
Yeah. And one last thing, because we will be talking about this in the next one. I think brands have a really hard time letting go of some editorial natured videos. And like Sam said, lo-fi works really well. So just trust TikTok to do its thing by embracing TikTok for what it is, because TikTok is not a high production platform. It took off because people were sat in their rooms during quarantine, talking directly to camera as if they were talking to the rest of the world. If you go in with your high production video cameras and everything, it automatically just doesn't look native and it's most likely not going to work. So that is the last we'll say on that. Tune in next month for more, please. Back to SEO. So will top words used in comments affect SEO and rank the video? Or is that not necessarily considered at the moment for TikTok SEO? So like the top comment spot.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I'm gonna say that up front, but I feel like it should affect it, really. It helps with what TikTok knows the search is about. If you've got lots of people basically effectively repeating what the video is about in the comments in some ways, I think that naturally helps. I'm not 100% though. I'm not 100% on that type of stuff, really. There's no official data that has come out about it. But yeah, it feels to me like more people commenting about the keyword in there is going to be useful.
Absolutely. What would you say, really good comment engagement, like if you get that top comment spot, what does that do for your account?
Ah, yeah. Well, that's a great question. So, like, if you got the top comment on somebody else, so if we know what we're talking about with here, like, if you're as a brand, if you're doing proactive commenting on other people's content who might be in your talk, so if you're like me when you watch a TikTok, you go straight to the comments for all the juicy goss. Like that's where you go down. And you look at those top comments that are on there. If you're a brand and you've got in a conversation with a nice sassy comment and you're on there, what people will naturally do is press your profile and they will go there and you will check that out. You will see your profile views go up. What you then potentially may see is that people press the videos that are on your videos. So a good strategy is to have your pinned videos with your maybe the videos that you're trying to get ranked, your most high value videos, because there's a good chance that the people that have gone and seen it elsewhere will come on and they will go and view those videos. And that might mean they give them a like, they give them a comment, they boost the views. And then TikTok suddenly sees this video is getting more engagement, it's getting more views, and it puts it back in the algorithm. And then lo and behold, it's ranking. So maybe that's one way it could end up happening. But yeah, it's very important from that perspective. More views.
Definitely. More views, more profile views, more content views, all the good things. Laura has asked, are companies using TikTok Shop or are companies using TikTok Shop seeing TikTok SEO boost their sales?
Are they say good question? Good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I would presume they would be. There's a couple of big companies on TikTok Shop. If you search for toilet roll on TikTok, the most popular product in the UK on TikTok is toilet roll. And if you search there, there is a good I'm dragging this out of my ass here, but there's a good chance you're going to see some of the top TikTok shop content on that space right now. Maybe TikTok toilet roll deals in the UK, that type of stuff. So I would presume, literally, lol, thank you, Anna. So like I would presume you would see that stuff on there as well. So if you've got a business like a TikTok shop business, quite often on organic, isn't naturally going to be as engaging or entertaining because it's going to be trying to sell stuff via TikTok Shop. So you might have one video that you're going to be, this is going to be the banger that I want to rank for the product. So it fits as part of your strategy, I would say, but I don't know for sure. I'll preface that.
Definitely. And I just did a little search right now, and you are correct. You look up toilet rolls and you see lots of um, linked toilet roll content to TikTok Shop. So yes, definitely. Um, okay, cool. So we have another question about using text in a video. Would you say more times or every time having text in a video performs better than having no text?
Generally, yes. Generally, I would say having some. The question is how much text more than anything. But if you think about a video that you're watching like this, when you're swiping through TikTok and you're going like that, does your video have enough in it that it's going to make somebody stop there and then? Quite often, the text on the video does the heavy lifting for you at that point. It might immediately just be what the video is about. It provides some context. It helps with whatever talk it's going to be in and all of that type of good stuff. So for me, text is super, super important. That doesn't mean you have to litter it all over it, but you provide something that immediately draws people in. Or is there something visually that does the job? Is it strong enough visually to provide that own hook without having to have text on there? So for me, yeah, I think it's super important.
Amazing. There's a bit of a hack here that people are asking about. So people are saying that you should write lots of keywords in text and then hide it outside of the frame. So you drag it so you can't actually see it. Does this work?
A good question. Good question. I go back to the thing I said before. If your video is shit, it will not matter. That's the first thing. Are you designing something that actually works? But if you worked as long as me as you have in digital, you remember on the SEO world where you used to, I mean, I wasn't working SEO in the 90s, but black hat SEO stuff where you used to basically hide text by writing text on the screen and then changing the color so it wasn't on the thing. This type of black hat activity will eventually get spotted by TikTok and you will probably get penalized for it. I would be wary of doing those little hacks themselves. I would try and make sure that your content feels as natural as possible and doesn't have loads of like stuffed keywords. It might work now. In the long term, it might not. Everyone will remember who works in SEO what happened when Google started penalizing brands for all of the keyword stuffing they did back in the day. So, yeah, just be careful of that. Focus on good content. Good content, get the keywords in naturally.
Yes. And Mary just put in the chat to everybody that she tries this hack and it's hit and miss. So again, there's no surefire way that it's going to guarantee anything. So just like everything else that we've said, it's trial and error, but prioritize good content and use SEO to make it even better. We have a couple questions about using a company as a hashtag.
Mhm.
Would you recommend doing that for a brand account?
If you were trying to build a talk, yes, I would definitely. And if you want to track this type of stuff as well, so maybe it's just a good one to be able to track things over the long term, but you might want to be using a branded hashtag to try and build out a space on TikTok for your brand, for other people to start talking about you, to basically become its own space. So it's always recommended to me to use something within there where you can.
And would you say that it's well worth the effort of creating a new hashtag or a new talk?
Uh, it really it's a long-term thing. It won't be immediate, but if you start now, it can be worth the effort down the time. That's a bit of a cop out of an answer, but you only need a few million views to have something start to build. Like the more times you start getting hits, the like it will start coming through. If you think of TikTok as a long-term bit platform where you're going to be on here for years and you're hopefully going to have various hits, and you might have a product that somebody posts about, they post on the platform and they talk about your brand. If you haven't started that in the past, it's going to get really difficult to do. So just do it now because you don't lose anything by actually just including it as a hashtag. Just do it.
Just do it, like Nike, or
Yeah,
as
exactly.
the British say, Nike. Um, so how does adding automated captions affect SEO on TikTok?
Automated captions is in from TikTok directly. TikTok's auto captions
Yeah.
feature. Yeah, that is well, first thing, make sure that you're checking what TikTok has as your auto captions and that they're not getting it wrong. That would be one aspect to it. But you should try and do that where possible. That is TikTok basically crawling the video and immediately understanding everything about that. So it's a good thing to do. Some clients, we basically will create subtitles off platform because you may want to do some more interesting captions. That's fine as well. But I would make sure that the opening frame that you have on TikTok, the first few seconds, is using native TikTok text. Like you're using the actual TikTok titles that you type in. So you're telling TikTok everything you need to know about the video up front. But yeah, it's a good thing to use auto captions, basically.
Definitely. Is
Looks
there
native
a,
as well,
oh,
which is good.
sorry.
Sorry, looks native as well, which is good.
Yes, the more native, the better. Is there a recommended caption length? Is it good to experiment, or would you recommend one or the other, long or short?
Yeah, I would experiment with it really. Like there's lots of brands at the moment and creators doing really overly long captions. There are others that just do like 2 words and an emoji. Make sure that you're capturing, if you are trying to rank for something, that you are capturing that in the caption. That doesn't mean you have to stuff your keywords though. But you might do a piece of content that actually maybe more of the storytelling's been done there as well. You may be fighting against some of the directors in your branded company who want to get your product in the video itself. Well, maybe it's better to be able to talk about that in the caption as well. So yeah, I would just experiment and play around with it. People aren't probably going to read it beyond that first bit, but it may help to have it longer.
Definitely. And I am a terrible moderator because I did not realize we only have 1 minute left. So thank you everybody for joining. I was just so into this. If we missed your question, I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna ask Sam one last like overarching question just to close us out. But if I missed your question and you are burning to know the answer, email me. We'll get back to you. Sam, what is the number one thing that you hope that people take away from this webinar today?
Oh God. If your content is shit, it doesn't even matter what you're doing. That'd be the
Yes,
first thing. But also just try and do something at the same time. Don't just write it off because you don't, you're like, oh, it's going to be too hard or anything like that. Just test it, start giving it a go. But remember, above all, your content's got to be good, otherwise it's pointless.
absolutely. I'm popping my email in the chat right now. So please take a second if you need to ask any questions, take that. Also, in the email that's going to be sent tomorrow with this webinar recording, I will link both mine and Sam's LinkedIn. So please feel free to follow us because Sam posts about TikTok all the time, not just SEO. And thank you so much. We hope to see you at the next webinar, which is about making sure that your content isn't shit, which seems to be
Yeah.
the theme of today. Thank you, everyone, and sorry again for running over.
Yeah, well,
Anything?
I'll add one last thing because I think Elizabeth put this in. I think it's really, really important. Still make the shit content and post it and learn it. That's
Yeah.
absolutely, don't spend forever trying to do your content to get it perfect, but just remember it's got to be good to actually work. But that was a great
Yes.
point, Elizabeth.
Love it. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.